Hello there and welcome back to another video. Today we are going to talk about Legion Remix, and in this video we're going to go through everything you need to know about this brand new game mode coming to the game in patch 11.2.5. This is probably going to be a pretty long and detailed video, so hopefully I can cover everything that you need to know about this new feature coming to World of Warcraft. But before we jump into that, guys, I do want to give a massive thank you to the sponsor of this video, and that is Boot.dev. This video is sponsored by Boot.dev, the smartest way that I've found to stick to learning to code. Boot.dev teaches back-end development in Python, SQL, and Go by having you build real projects, and not just watch tutorials. The grind feels way less painful because they use game mechanics. You earn XP, level up, complete quests, and even fight bosses while you learn. If you ever get stuck, you've got Boots, your AI bear wizard tutor, who nudges you forward instead of giving you the answers. And there's a new training grounds for unlimited practice challenges. All the lessons are free to read and watch, but the full interactive experience unlocks with a membership. And you could get 25% off your first year on the annual plan by using my code MrGM. So check out the link in the description. And a huge thanks to Boot.dev once again for sponsoring this video. Right, so yes, Legion Remix is coming. After the massive success of Mists of Pandaria Remix, we are getting a Legion version of this game mode. Now, there are some pretty substantial changes from Mists to Legion, and some of them are good, some of them are perhaps not so good depending on how you look at it. And as mentioned, we are going to go through everything you need to know. So let's begin with talking about the release schedule. So Legion Remix launches on October 7th or 8th depending on your region. Now, what's different about Legion Remix is that it is going to be a phased release. Not all of the content will be available at the start of Legion Remix. So on October 7th you will have the Skies of Fire phase. It says take to the skies of the Broken Isles with the original Legion content and the Emerald Nightmare and Trial of Valor raid. 2 weeks later, we will get the Rise of the Nightfallen phase, which says continue the Nightfallen story with the Insurrection campaigns and new world quests across the Broken Isles. It says re-experience the Legion Mega Dungeon with Return to Karazhan and take on the Nighthold raid. 2 weeks after that, on November 4th, we have Legionfall. It says establish a foothold on the Broken Shore, take on the Legion assaults, and fight your way into the Cathedral of the Eternal Night and the Tomb of Sargeras raid. On November 18th, we have the final raid with Argus Eternal. It says replay the Argus campaign across 3 deadly zones, take on the Seat of the Triumvirate dungeon and Antorus the Burning Throne. But that's not all. We do have a final phase on December 9th, and this is Infinite Echoes. It says as the Legion Remix timeline begins collapsing, say your goodbyes and embrace the chaos. There'll be catch-up opportunities, remix content updates, and more rewards. And as of the calendar right now, Legion Remix is scheduled to complete on January 19th or January 20th, depending on your region. So we have around 3 months of Legion Remix and different content coming out at different times. Again, definitely a decision that people are pretty contentious about. Some people really don't like that. Some people do like that. Legion had a ton more content of Mists of Pandaria, so I guess I can understand it from that point of view. You might just be a little overwhelmed with having all of that Legion content on day one, but I completely understand the people who would like that. You know, I can see both sides of this, but yeah, we are getting a phased release for Legion Remix. So let's talk about the content. Let's start with leveling. So leveling is pretty similar to Legion. So you actually have all races available. So yes, you can play a Dracthyr if you like, and some of the allied races which were introduced after Legion, and you are getting 5 more character slots. So if you are at the maximum of your characters, you're getting 5 more slots for Legion Remix. So for classes, it is a little bit more restrictive though, as Legion was pretty heavy on class content. Unfortunately, Evokers will not be available in Legion Remix, so you will be able to choose the original 12 classes from Legion, but Dracthyr Evokers will not be available. However, as mentioned, you can make the Dracthyr race, so you can make a Dracthyr Hunter, Dracthyr Warrior, or whatever, and pretend that Evokers are available. But yes, no Evokers in Remix. Now, leveling will be level 10 to 80, so you are starting at level 10. And yeah, leveling is pretty authentic to Legion. You will have access to all of the Broken Isle zones, which will be scaled, so you can just run around those and complete all the storylines and side quests and things like that. While leveling, you will notice a new thing called Time Warped Obelisks. These will spawn randomly in the world or from creatures, and basically these grant buffs, which will help you through your leveling adventure. So you're going to see a few of these, and there are various achievements linked to activating like a certain amount of those. Obviously, all of the original class halls will be available in Legion Remix, and the good thing here is that there is no mission table. So the mission table quests from Legion were definitely kind of a bit of a time gate in regards to having to wait for those quests to finish so you could continue your class hall campaign. In Legion Remix, these are automatically skipped, and actually when they're skipped, the Remix NPCs actually say like a little funny quip about them kind of being, you know, boring or whatever. So that's really great. You'll be able to complete the class hall quests a lot quicker than you would if you were doing them through retail. So let's talk about some of the unlock levels. So dungeons are available at level 10. Heroic dungeons will be available at level 20. Raiding is also available from level 20 with just normal raids and LFR as far as I'm aware. And then world quests in Legion will unlock at level 30. If you want to do heroic or mythic raids or mythic dungeons, these will be available at max level at level 80. Now, if you remember the thread system from Mr. Pandaria Remix, where you basically loot stats and things like that, that system is pretty much gone in Legion Remix. You do still loot infinite power, which we'll talk about in a bit, but the only stat that you actually loot and increase is your stamina, and this is not account-wide. Again, more details on that once we get into the artifact weapon and things like that. But to stick with leveling, we also have a new system called Infinite Research Quests. These are daily quests that can stack up to 6 if you're a player that doesn't log in every day, which is really nice. These quests can range from like killing creatures, running dungeons or specific dungeon, raids, different skywriting activities, and various other things. There's actually over 100 different quests they've created for this, and you'll eventually get the ability to pick up more than one at a time, which is really good. And the rewards from this do give player power and will also give some account-wide XP boosts, which can definitely help you on your future ults. This is also going to be an activity you do at max level as well to get gear, and just seems like a pretty cool thing, kind of like the kind of weekly World Soul activity quests, but obviously daily. Speaking of XP boosts, there are various ways to increase your XP in Legion Remix, which is account-wide, which is nice. So completing the zone campaign will give you 10% extra XP per zone. Doing the intro quest will give you some extra XP as well, and your first character will actually get a 10% XP boost at level 40 and level 80 for your warband, which is great. And for every level 80 you level, you'll get an extra 10% XP to your warband. So yeah, that's how you get a lot of your XP buffs in Remix. Also, the Infinite Research quest will give you 1% per quest with a chance of another 1%. So basically like 2% per quest per day. It kind of builds up quite quickly, with the maximum being 400% XP that you can get. But I don't know if that'll be realistic to get during Remix, but maybe if you have a bunch of ults or something like that. But that's how you get a lot of the XP boosts during Remix. Another new feature, which is kind of leveling adjacent, is a new feature called Heroic World Tier. So this is available from level 10, and to enter Heroic World Tier, you click the Console of Infinite Chaos in the new Infinite Bazaar, which is just south of Dalaran, which is where all the vendors are and things like that. To exit Heroic World Tier at any point, you can simply just use your new spell, which is Temporal Retreat, or speak to the Spirit Healer when dead, or click the console once again, which will take you out of Heroic World Tier. But you will have to go back to the Infinite Bazaar to enter once more if you do want to join it again. Now, when you're in Heroic World Tier, creatures will have more health and do more damage, which makes sense. Sometimes creatures will be empowered with affix-like buffs, empowering their difficulty and also their rewards. They have like a little icon above their head to notice that they are empowered. But you are going to get a lot more bronze, which is the currency to buy things, and infinite power, which we'll talk about in a minute, which is basically how you power up your artifact weapon. But while leveling in Heroic World Tier, your XP gains from kills will increase by 500%, which is a ton. Now, they made a ton of changes to this during PTR, which makes it a little bit more manageable, but I will say my experience with leveling with Heroic World Tier is that it is kind of hard and maybe not even worth it, but perhaps if you're a better player or a different class, it would be good. I'd certainly recommend doing it a little bit later into leveling. Obviously at level 10 you don't have your full class toolkit, which makes it a lot harder. Now, leveling and being in Heroic World Tier does not affect the gear rewards from quests and kills and things like that. It is all just the same, but as mentioned, it will drop extra bronze and power for your artifact. So really, when you're max level and a little bit more geared and a little bit more powerful, this is definitely going to be a pretty good way to farm bronze and and to farm power for your artifact weapon, which we'll talk about now. Yes, the artifact weapon. This is your cloak as such for Legion Remix, but of course, it is using the artifact weapons from Legion, a major part of the original expansion. Now, these are acquired very quickly from a questline at the start, which kind of reenact the Legion attacks on Dalaran, which is great, and it uses the original artifact appearances and names from Legion for each class and spec. And the great thing here is if you ever make an ult, you don't need to do that intro scenario every single time. You can skip right ahead and get your artifact weapon from the very start. Now, your artifact item level upgrades will come from an item called Artifactium Sand. Now, these will come from the Cache of Infinite Treasures, which will come from quest rewards and things like that. You'll get a ton of these while out in the world, and you just open those, and those have like items and a chance of Artifactium Sand. And they can also come from when you're scrapping gear or different mobs and things like that, which is great. So you're going to get quite a lot of this, and each time you use it, it does upgrade the item level of your artifact, which does cap out at item level 740, which is the maximum of Legion Remix of all gear across the board. Now, it's not just the item level that is going to make this powerful, it is the talent tree. Yes, we are getting artifact talent trees, however, it's a little bit different. So everybody has the same tree. Every class, every spec has the exact same tree. The only difference are the different stats that you get depending on your class or spec. You'll always get stamina, but you will also get different primary and secondary stats from your talent tree. To view this talent tree, you just simply shift-click the artifact. The first trait on the tree will give you an active ability called Remix Time. This is a great ability. Basically, what it says is that you raise your artifact and open a rift in your timeline, causing your cooldowns to recover 1000% faster for 3 seconds. So this is a great ability if you are looking to kind of speed up some of the cooldowns on your character. Now, the first couple traits are just kind of basic stuff which improve your character and give you different stats, but then you get to a point where you need to choose a active ability. Now, you have a choice of 5 abilities. The first one is Call of the Forest, which summons a stampede of forest creatures that charge forward and do damage. You have Twisted Crusade, which calls forth an infernal dreadlord for 30 seconds that periodically strikes enemies with Reign of Chaos, which is a great Warcraft 3 reference. You also have the choice of Naran's Everdisk, which throws a disc of arcane energy that arcs outwards before returning to you, which is great, and you can pick it up and throw it back out a couple times, which is a really cool visual and a really cool gameplay aspect. You also have the choice of Tempest Wrath, which basically just unleashes a wrathful storm, inflicting nature damage, and Vindicar's Judgment, which says become Lightforge for 15 seconds and cool down a beam of heavenly light that follows the targets, dealing holy damage to enemies and healing friendly targets over 0.5 seconds for 10 seconds within the area. So basically here, you have the choice of one of these 5 abilities, and as you go up the tree here, it is going to give you extra passive things that really help out, like being able to cast while moving, or extra damage, or procs, or defensive abilities, and that obviously does really help your leveling, and of course your power at max level. And you can change this whenever you like as well, which is nice. So if you're not happy with the ability you're using, you can switch it out instantly from anywhere, which is really nice. Obviously not in combat, but yeah, pretty much anywhere you can switch that out. Now, one thing you'll notice while you're gaining gear and leveling is that you'll be getting rings, trinkets, and necks, which actually give you extra ranks of abilities from the tree, starting with 1 rank from a green item, 2 from a blue, and 3 from an epic. And this will actually add on top of any ranks you've already gotten. As you can see from the tree here, like there's different glowing parts of it. So I've kind of spec'd into one tree, but my rings and trinkets are giving me extra abilities from the other trees. It's pretty RNG in regards to what abilities are buffed through the rings, trinkets, and necks, but obviously, you know, eventually you will get kind of an epic neck that gives you the ability you're looking for, and you will just keep that forever, pretty much. So that's really great, and yeah, it is really cool to see sort of that synergy between the different trees on the artifact tree, so there's definitely going to be like a meta that people will go for. Once you get to the end of the tree, you will get to the Endless Node that increases your primary stat, stamina, and gives you 1% verse for each rank. This says that it scales infinitely, but it does cap out at 999, and there are no diminishing returns. You will be extremely powerful at 999. On the PTR, they did give us the ability to test this out at being the absolute pinnacle of power, and we were able to solo mythic raids, mythic dungeons, everything, literally everything we could solo as a kind of maxed out character. Now, the currency you're going to be using to increase increase this talent tree is a new currency called Infinite Power. Now, this is basically acquired from everything similar to bronze, so you are going to loot this from creatures or caches or basically anything around the world. There's even like mining nodes that you get, which give you power and bronze and things like that. One thing to note with Infinite Power is that it is not account-wide. Any power you gain on your main character will not go over to your ults. However, there is sort of an account-wide system, which we'll talk about shortly. Now, the good thing with Infinite Power is it is shared across all of your artifact weapons, so if you do decide to swap spec like later on in your leveling, you're not going to lose out on anything. You'll instantly be able to level up your artifact weapon to the same level as your other one, which is really nice. Now, as mentioned, power is not shared across your ults, only XP is shared across your ults, but you do have another new currency called Infinite Knowledge. Now, if you remember from Legion, we had the artifact knowledge system, and it is kind of similar to that. So the more infinite knowledge you have gives you more infinite power from sources, and it's 25% per point. And this is account-wide, so if you have a main that has 20 infinite knowledge, your ults will get tons more infinite power from sources, basically meaning they'll be able to level up their artifact weapon and become stronger a lot quicker than if you were running your first character. And this is account-wide, and this is obtained through various sources, mainly achievements. By completing like all the quests in the zone, or completing a dungeon or a raid or something like that will give you infinite knowledge, and it is marked on the achievements, and this does cap out at 36. So you're going to get a ton of infinite knowledge, and you can get a lot of it from that first phase as well. So yeah, no infinite power is shared account-wide. However, infinite knowledge will make it a lot easier to power up those ults. Speaking of power, let's go into a bit of gearing here. So gearing is different to Mists of Pandaria Remix. So gearing is a little bit more traditional than it was in Remix. We're not going to be upgrading items or anything like that, or putting any gems in it like we did in Mists. This is more of a traditional gearing with item levels and things of that nature. So while leveling, the majority of your gear is coming from the caches that you get from completing quests, and the gear from that is completely RNG. You could get a blue item, an epic item, or a green item, and gear is scaled based off your average item level. So obviously, as you upgrade your artifact, that is going to increase your item level, which increases the gear that drops. The cap, as mentioned, is 740, and this can be reached in the first phase. Originally, there were capped item levels, but now, as of a recent PTR build, the cap is 740, and you are able to get that in the first phase, and that is the final item level of Legion Remix. Now, I did mention rings, trinkets, and necks. On the PTR, these were dropping from level 20. Now, what's difficult about the PTR is that due to warbands and everything, I don't know if this has changed. I hope it has, because you get so much power from those rings and trinkets. Now, once you have one character which has hit 20, your future ults will start getting them from the very start. And as mentioned, these rings and trinkets and necks do give you extra ranks of abilities on your artifact tree. Once you get to level 80, though, the gearing does change a little bit. So you still get gear from boxes. However, these do cap out at around about 584. If you want to get higher item level gear, you do need to get Motes of Broken Time. Now, you're going to get tons of these. Essentially, what these items are is that you can bind 10 of them, and it creates an item of the current highest raid, which in phase 1 will be the Emerald Nightmare, but as mentioned, this will change depending on the phase that we're in. And this creates an epic item based off of your average item levels. Basically, the gear from the caches and things like that is going to cap out at 584 for the epic items, but then you can increase your item level by creating raid loot from these motes. But there is different methods of gearing as well. So normal, heroic, and mythic dungeons, actually pretty pointless when it comes to gearing, as they just cap out at 584 for the epic items, which is the same as the caches. So really, you don't want to be doing those unless you just want to queue in or whatever. A lot of gearing is going to come from Mythic Plus. Yes, Mythic Plus is available in Legion Remix and will contain the original Legion affixes returning, and 4 new ones which are called Eternus Trials. I've done a lot of Mythic Plus testing actually, and all of the dungeons from Legion will be available in the pool. Now, it seems like the kind of soft cap is Mythic plus 40. It definitely seems doable once you have a lot of that kind of power from your artifact weapon and things like that. And this is going to drop some pretty good loot. This is going to drop 681, it seems, as of PTR. Once you go higher than 40, though, the scaling gets pretty extreme. You can go higher, but I'm going to be very impressed to see how high people can go. I think we tried a 43 or something like that, and it was just ridiculous. We couldn't do it with like kind of maxed out characters, but perhaps better players could do that. We'll see. We'll see what the highest key that happens during Legion Remix. But yeah, you are going to get like kind of base item level gear from Mythic Plus. So if you are just doing keys and things like that, your average item will just naturally go up from getting loot from that. Another way of gearing is through the raid. So as mentioned, Emerald Nightmare and Trial of Valor will will be available at the start, but of course more raids will come out every 2 or so weeks. What's interesting about raid gearing is that all the difficulties, LFR, normal, heroic, and mythic, all drop the same item level, which is based off of your item level. Loot is personal, so if your item level is like, I don't know, 620, the items that will drop in the raids in all difficulties will be around about 620, similar to the moat system, but yeah, these are going to be dropping straight from the bosses. You don't need to build up moats, but the reason to do the higher difficulties is for more bronze and more infinite power. You get tons more from the higher difficulties, so definitely worth doing the higher difficulties if you can. And these do reset daily. Raids will reset daily, so yeah, that's pretty great. So if you do want to be a busybody and get tons of bronze and power, tons of gear, you can just do kind of a raid world tour every day, starting with Emerald, Nightmare, and the Trial of Valor, and then more raids as they come out every 2 weeks, which is great. You also can get bronze and infinite power from scrapping your gear, just like you did in Mop Remix, and you can spawn the kind of portable scrapper to be able to do that, which is wonderful. So pretty cool. I do want to add one final note on your characters and everything like that in Legion Remix before we get into the rewards. You can actually leave whenever you want. So if you finish your gearing or you're kind of done with collecting or whatever, you can make your character a non-time runner and go into the real world and go back to, you know, kind of regular World of Warcraft and regular War Within. So yeah, if you kind of want to just level characters through Remix, get to 80, go back to War Within, you can do that. This is a one-way trip though, so yeah, this is just done simply from the login screen, but you can just convert your characters back. You get some pretty basic gear, you get some gold, you get things like that, but it's kind of nice that we don't need to wait until the end of Remix to kind of convert our characters over. Now, let's talk about the most important thing, and that is, of course, the rewards. Why are we doing this? So, as mentioned, bronze is returning. This was the same currency from Mists of Pandaria Remix. This is used to purchase everything, all the cosmetics in Legion Remix from the Infinite Bazaar. And this definitely comes from everything. No doubt there'll be plenty of guides on kind of optimizing bronze gains and things like that, but we're not going to get into that here. It is account-wide as well, so you can transfer this across your characters with no tax. So this is a one-to-one transfer across your characters, which is nice. So let's kind of go over some of the high notes of the rewards here. So we have new class mounts. So we have these Fel-themed class mounts. Now these can be attained 2 ways. One is to just reach level 80 on the respective class. So once you reach 80 on a class, you do get the respective Fel class mount, which is nice. Or you can actually purchase these for bronze. There are 20,000 bronze each, and you can purchase those on any class that you like. And you don't need to get that class to 80. You can just simply purchase it from a vendor, and they look pretty cool. They're kind of like green recolors of the original class mounts. Now, the original class mounts will be available when the Legion Full phase comes out, and you'll get that through the Class Order Hall quest. Presumably, they're not purchasable from a vendor. As you'd imagine, you can also buy all of the Legion Dungeon set ensembles, all the different raid ensembles from the different difficulties, and outdoor activity ensembles, similar to Mop Remix. Basically, any set that's ever existed in Legion, you are going to get that. We do have some returning sets, though. We have the appearances from the Legion pre-patch event. They are coming back, so you will be able to purchase those with bronze, which is cool. There's also a mount vendor which sells 40 brand new mounts, which are basically just like unused appearances or different recolors that weren't used back in Legion, and there are just so many new mounts. You could also purchase all of the kind of raid mounts and things like that from Legion if you never got those, raid and dungeon and things like that, which is cool. Pretty much every Legion mount is featured here, so if you already have it, obviously you're going to save yourself a lot of bronze there, but if you don't have it, you can purchase it for bronze, which is nice. But it's like 100,000 for a mount, which is kind of wild, but certainly going to save you a lot of time farming it in the future. You also have super rare things like Tayshalak you can purchase for bronze. There's also like a little Tayshalak as well, which is a new one, which is a one-handed version of it, which is super cute, and different exclusive things like that. There's also just like random unused appearances that weren't in Legion. There's also a toy vendor and pet vendor, which has different toys and pets from the Legion expansion, including some new pets as well. Just tons of stuff, just lots and lots of stuff. I think it's something like 8 million bronze if you don't have anything from Legion, which is absolutely insane. But there are some other rewards coming from different activities outside of buying it for bronze. The Mythic Chosen Dead ensembles from Trial of Valor are returning. So basically, to get these, you just need to complete the Trial of Valor on Mythic without dying. If other people can die, that's fine. As long as you don't die at all on Trial of Valor on Mythic and you clear the whole raid, you'll get the Chosen Dead ensembles. And these are armor type specific. So you have to do it on a cloth user, a leather user, mail user, and plate user to get all of these sets. They also have a new Ashara inspired transmog set coming. This is by completing achievements in Suramar. We have a new new Manaroth's Shield transmog, a new color of the scythes from Argus, a really cool looking Fel-infused version of Charlemagne. This is from the Broken Shore achievements. We also have the Violet Spellwing returning for completing Heroic Antorus, which is the original Ahead of the Curve mount. Well, presumably we haven't tested that, but yeah, it seems like that's the case. You don't buy it for bronze, so probably completing Heroic Antorus will reward you with the Violet Spellwing, which is the original Ahead of the Curve mount. So yeah, certainly a bit of controversy there, but we don't need to talk about that. One of the cooler things that I love about Legion Remix are the new Sargerii sets. These are the Sargerii Commander sets. Now, these are from different achievements. You have the Sargerii Commander's Felscorn Regalia. This is for completing the Legion Remix campaign, which is just some simple quests from Eternus. You have the Voidscarred Regalia, which is by completing 100 world quests in Heroic World tier. You have the Lightbound Regalia, which is rewarded from completing all the Legion raids on Mythic. And you have the Hellforge Regalia, which is by completing a time-worn Keystone dungeon with a key level of 30 or higher in Legion Remix. So yeah, these sets are absolutely amazing, with probably the best cloak I've ever seen as a World of Warcraft player. So yeah, some very cool rewards, and certainly as a collector, there is tons to get from Legion Remix. But yeah, that is it. That is Legion Remix. Legion Remix had a ton of changes over PTR. There certainly was like a lot of opinions that it's going to be bad and things like that. As someone who's put tons and tons of hours into it, and certainly with, you know, so many changes they've done over the PTR, I really think it is going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to have a lot of fun with it regardless. I don't know, like I know a lot of people just want to be super powerful and solo things, and that certainly is possible and will be possible during Legion Remix, so you don't need to worry about that. There is so many rewards to get, there's so many cool unique things, and I'm just really looking forward to it. It's going to be the perfect thing to keep me busy before we get into midnight in the earlier part of next year. So thank you very much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on Legion Remix. Are you excited for it? What are you going to be playing? What's the thing you're going to be targeting? Let me know down below. Guys, if you like this video, please do leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you want to support me outside of YouTube, I'm also on Patreon and I'm on Twitter at MrGMYT, and I have a partner Discord channel as well. And also I am streaming on twitch.tv/MrGM. If you want to see me stream World of Warcraft, War Within, Midnight Alpha coming up, all that good stuff, I'm over on twitch.tv/MrGM. And with that, guys, I'll see you next time.